What if I told you the Uchiha clan was never truly evil? What if the story we were given was only the surface of a much deeper wound? For years, the name Uchiha echoed through the hidden leaf like a curse, whispered in fear, spoken with suspicion, remembered with anger. They were labeled as traitors, as power-hungry extremists, as the clan that tried to destroy the very village they helped build. But no one stopped to ask a simple question. What kind of pain creates a rebellion? Tonight we look beyond the red eyes, beyond the flames, beyond the massacre. We look at the trauma, because the tragedy of the Uchiha clan did not begin the night they died. It began the day they were feared. Long before the massacre, before the coup, before brothers stood over lifeless bodies, the Uchiha were co-founders of the Hidden Leaf. Alongside their rivals, the Senju, they built a dream. A village where children would not have to die on battlefields. A place where clans could coexist. It was supposed to end the endless wars. But peace built on rivalry is fragile. The Senju and the Uchiha had fought for generations. Blood against blood. Eye against eye. Even when they shook hands to create the village, distrust lingered in the shadows. The first Hokage believed in unity. But unity without trust is only a pause in conflict. After his death, something changed. The Uchiha were gradually pushed to the edges of power, politically isolated, watched carefully, assigned to control the military police force, a position that seemed honorable on the surface. But think about it. When you give one clan authority to police the village, you also make them the face of punishment, the enforcers, the ones people fear. It created distance between the Uchiha and the rest of the villagers. They were no longer comrades. They were authority. And authority without affection breeds resentment. The village began to see them not as protectors, but as threats waiting to rise. Every action was monitored, every meeting suspected, every whisper magnified. This is where the trauma deepens. Because imagine growing up as an Uchiha child. You inherit legendary power, the Sharingan. Eyes said to reflect the soul, eyes awakened through intense emotion, often through loss. That means from childhood, you are taught one cruel truth. To grow stronger, you must suffer. Your power is born from grief, from heartbreak, from witnessing something you never should. The very ability that makes you special demands trauma as payment. What does that do to a clan over generations? It normalizes pain. It romanticizes loss. It creates a culture where emotional suppression becomes survival. And when a clan built on emotional intensity is forced into political isolation, it does not fade quietly. It explodes. After the Nine Tails attacked the village, suspicion fell immediately on the Uchiha. The beast was controlled by Sharingan power in the past. That was enough. No proof, just history. They were relocated to the outskirts of the village, physically separated, watched even more closely. This was not protection, this was segregation. And segregation sends a message louder than words ever could. You are not one of us. The clan felt betrayed. They helped build the leaf. They bled for it. They lost family in its wars. And now, they were treated like enemies within their own home. Imagine the humiliation, the quiet rage, the fathers who smiled at their children during dinner. While planning revolution in secret, the mothers who sensed the tension in the air, but had no power to change it. The young children who felt the village's cold stares without understanding why. Trauma does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers at night. The Uchiha began planning a coup, not because they wanted chaos, but because they believed it was the only way to reclaim dignity. That is what makes this tragedy unbearable. They were not monsters, they were cornered. But here is where the story fractures completely. One child stood between the clan and the village. A prodigy, calm, brilliant, burdened, Itachi Uchiha. From a young age, Itachi witnessed war. He saw battlefields covered in bodies before he was even old enough to understand hatred. That experience carved something deep into him. He did not see glory in conflict. He saw its cost. When the coup plans reached the highest levels of the village, fear consumed the leadership. They believed civil war was inevitable, and a civil war would weaken the leaf enough for other nations to attack. The solution they chose was unthinkable. Eliminate the clan, not negotiate, not reform, erase. And they chose one of their own to do it. Itachi was forced into a decision no child should ever face: protect the village or protect his family. Either way, blood would follow. So he made a choice. He became the villain. He slaughtered his own clan to prevent a greater war. Parents, friends, relatives, children. And then he lived. That is the part people overlook. He lived with it. He carried the hatred of the entire village. He allowed his little brother to believe he was a monster. He joined a criminal organization. He wore the mask of evil, all to maintain a fragile peace. But trauma does not disappear just because you accept it. It transforms. Itachi died young, sick, exhausted, emotionally shattered, a hero with no monument, a protector with no gratitude. And what about Sasuke? He was a child who came home to silence, to bodies, to blood, to his brother standing in the middle of it all. His trauma was immediate, violent, personal. He did not inherit stories of oppression. He inherited massacre. His entire identity became revenge. Every breath fueled by hatred. Because when trauma has no safe outlet, it becomes obsession. And the cruelest irony? Sasuke's descent into darkness only reinforced the village's original fear of the Uchiha. A self-fulfilling prophecy. They feared the clan would rebel. Their fear pushed the clan toward rebellion. They crushed the clan to stop the rebellion. The survivor became exactly what they feared. The trauma of the Uchiha clan is not just about one night. It is about generational emotional conditioning. A bloodline whose power awakens through loss. A community pushed to the margins. A leadership that chose control over understanding. A prodigy forced to commit genocide for peace. A child shaped entirely by vengeance. And a village that never fully confronted its role in the tragedy. Even after the truth surfaced, there was no public reckoning, no apology, no rewriting of the narrative. The Uchiha name remained stained, because admitting fault would mean questioning the foundation of the village itself. And institutions rarely do that. Here is a darker thought. What if the Uchiha were never cursed by their eyes? What if they were cursed by being emotionally honest in a world that demanded suppression? The Sharingan reacts to emotion, intense emotion. Love, loss, fear, rage. It does not awaken through indifference. The Uchiha feel deeply, and in a shinobi system that trains children to suppress pain, to bury grief, to follow orders without question, emotional depth becomes dangerous. Maybe the clan was not unstable. Maybe they were simply human in a system that rejected vulnerability. Imagine if instead of isolation, there had been dialogue. If instead of surveillance, there had been trust. If instead of genocide, there had been reform. Would the coup have dissolved? Would Itachi have lived a different life? Would Sasuke have grown up with laughter instead of silence? We will never know, because trauma, once inflicted, echoes across generations. Even in later years, as peace returned and new bonds were formed, the shadow of the Uchiha lingered. Their story became a warning, a lesson, a scar. But scars are proof of healing, are they not? Or are they reminders of damage that never truly faded? The untold trauma of the Uchiha clan is not just about betrayal and bloodshed. It is about what happens when fear guides leadership. It is about what happens when a powerful minority is treated as a threat instead of a partner. It is about children inheriting wars they did not start. And most importantly, it is about how easily a society can justify cruelty in the name of stability. The Uchiha were not innocent in every choice they made. Planning a coup carries consequences. Revenge destroys lives. But reducing their entire history to villainy erases the pain that shaped those decisions. And pain ignored returns. So the next time you hear the name Uchiha, do not think only of red eyes and rebellion. Think of a clan that built a village. Think of a family forced into impossible choices. Think of a boy who carried genocide on his shoulders. Think of another boy who carried hatred in his heart. And ask yourself, if you were born into a clan feared by your own home, taught that your power comes from loss, watched by leaders who never trusted you, would you have chosen differently, or would trauma have chosen for you? Tell me, was the Uchiha clan truly cursed, or were they simply broken by the very village they tried to protect?